And there we are. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, and here is our contractually obligated intro music. And that assures you, gentle listener, gentle viewer, that you are now ingesting a high quality, high production value podcast. The finest farm to table geeky conversation for your consumption. And we are very pleased to have with us tonight the president of the Indie Game Developers Network, Jess Geyer. Jess, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Co-hosting tonight is special guest Owen Casey Stevens, who we haven't seen in a while. Owen, good to see you back.
Thank you very much. Hi, folks.
Howdy. So, we were talking before show, and I had to say, I'm ashamed to say it, I only became aware of the IGDN like about a year ago when I was talking to Craig Campbell. Could you tell us a little bit about what the IGDN is and what you guys do?
Yeah, for sure. We are the Indie Game Developer Network. We're a group of over 100 small publishers. Not only small, we have a lot of publishers of various sizes, but indie publishers, game designers, creators from around the world, literally around the world. And we basically pool our resources together to do a lot of cool things like have a presence at conventions, especially Gen Con, which is kind of hard to do for smaller creators that don't have a lot of capital behind them. We also support indie games in general throughout the industry and promote diversity through programs such as our diversity sponsorship, our Metatopia diversity sponsorship, and we do the Indie Groundbreaker Awards as well, which also supports indie games and promotes diversity in our industry.
And this was how we got to talking because I saw people talking about the Groundbreaker Awards on I can't call it Twitter anymore, can I?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Call it Twitter.
Yeah.
Call it Twitter. The URL is still twitter.com. It's fine.
That's fair. Okay. On that place, people were talking about the Groundbreaker Awards, and I was like, well, hey, this sounds interesting. Who can tell me more? And they pointed me towards Jess. Let me share. We've got a couple of things here that we'll share. The URL, people can see the nominees, and even better, it has links to the games so they can check them out. That's igdnonline.com, and that's the main website. From there, you can get to where I'm going to tell you. But if you go to igdnonline.com/groundbreakers, and you can see all the games that are up for awards this year. And I had incorrectly thought that you guys did these awards at Gen Con, and that is false. You guys do an online award before Gen Con, correct?
That's right. Well, we used to present them at Gen Con. We had a special ceremony that we do at Gen Con, but we had the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, and that's when we went online. I find it to be a little bit more equitable in general because, like I said, we have nominees and actual members in our organization from all over, and it's not always feasible for people to show up in an in-person convention to get an award. So I like that we're doing them online now.
Sweet. Can you tell me how many years we've been doing this?
Yeah, since 2016. That was when the first Groundbreakers was held, and our organization itself is a decade old now. I want to say it was 2013. I did not check my notes on this. My notes are in a different tab here. But it's a decade old organization, and then we started these awards in 2016.
Then I am chagrined because I thought I was keeping up on everything in the RPG world, but I just became aware of this very recently. So,
So if I may ask, how is someone nominated for a Groundbreaker Award?
Yeah, we go through a process where people are able to submit. It's about a 30-day submission period. So very similar to the Ennies where you self-nominate and you send in a copy of your game for our judges. We don't ask for them now. We don't ask for them in a physical copy. We're just looking for a digital copy. Your game has to have been released since the last Groundbreaker Award ceremony. It can't have been a previously nominated game, and it has to be available to the public. So all of these creators that you see on the screen and that were on our nominees page, they all submitted. And then we have a panel of judges. The judges are, we do typically 3 outside of the organization and 2 inside. We have a slightly different panel this year, a slightly different panel makeup this year, but those judges themselves go through the nominees. They go through a process. They do a decision-making process, which is really up to our judges panel because we don't want to limit what it means to be indie, what it means to be innovative, what it means to have the best art, for example. We want that to kind of be, it's subjective in a lot of ways, because it's art. In my opinion, games are, they're play, but they're also art. So we want to give our judges a chance to look at these and come up with a list together, and then they decide on the winner together as well.
So you said you didn't want to define what is indie. Do you have a personal definition for what you see as an indie game?
Oh my gosh, it can be such a controversy when you talk about this. I usually just say, are you Wizards of the Coast? Then you're not indie. But we also have a lot of, bigger players in the room too. Some people wouldn't consider Paizo to be indie. I don't know if I would. There's like Modifius. There's like, do you consider that indie? Really, I think it comes down to self-selection. If you think that you're indie, you are. And what do they say? Like, I know it when I'll see it. What was that definition? I know indie when I see it.
Fair enough. I do know a couple of these games. Fight to Survive is nominated for Best Setting by Mr. James Kerr. And that is a cool game that emulates 1980s martial arts movies. And I actually had James on to interview him a while back. And that was, he's an interesting guy. That's a really cool game. I'm glad to see it on there.
Now, James is actually our membership coordinator at the IGDN.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Cool. This is a good opportunity then. How does one join the IGDN? If someone's listening and saying to themselves, hey, I'm a game designer. I'm also indie. I should join a network of like-minded folks. How does one do that?
It's not too difficult process. You would email our membership coordinator at membership@igdnonline.com. You'd ask for an application. Anyone can apply. If you consider yourself, if you think you'd be a good fit for the IGDN, you want to join us, fill out our application. Our application asks you some questions about what's your work like in the industry? What do you do? Take a look at our diversity statement. Do you agree with it? How does your own work in the industry promote this or support this? We then, as members, because we're this full group of a lot of different people, and we want to make sure that the people we welcome into our organization are good people to have in our organization in terms of the community and culture within our org. We discuss for a period of 14 days, and within that 14 days, we either accept you or we don't. And once you're accepted, you get a trial membership for about 6 months. The full membership is $100 a year. I find that personally worth it because I get to have my games, it pays for it just for me to have my games at conventions. But there's a lot of other member benefits as well, including our huge community of friendly people who will help you with questions.
Okay. I'm guessing most of the interaction is over Discord?
A lot of it's over Discord, but we also have remnants from the Google Plus era. We have a Google group forum that we discuss in, which a lot of people prefer. We have a Basecamp subscription, so our members also get access to. They can make their own personal Basecamp projects, but we do some communication on Basecamp. But yeah, Discord. I like to use Discord, so that's primarily where I communicate, but we have those 3 different channels.
Okay.
But to be clear, non-members who think they're indie can apply for the awards, right?
Yes. You don't have to be a member to be nominated for the award at all. You can be a member. As I mentioned, we even have some leadership team members that were nominated for awards, and there's no limit on that. The only limit we have is you can't be a judge. You can't be a current judge and also nominate your game.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
I see 1,000 Arrows on there too. I want to say under best rules. Yeah, there we go. 1,000 Arrows.
Yeah.
We actually had Brennan Taylor on several months ago to talk about this game, which I like. James Kerr's game. I thought this one was amazing in different ways. This is a 17th century, feudal Japanese warlords game. But amazing art. Really sound like a lot of fun. So I'm happy to see that on there too. So.
Yeah, I really liked seeing it in person. The cover is gorgeous.
You mind if I share
And
that real fast?
oh my gosh, yeah, feel
Yeah,
free.
I happen to have that up because I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, he's got a big image here, so it's hard to share. But yeah, just look at that. It's beautiful.
And yeah, James Mendez Hodes is also a member of our organization, has been a member for a while. Brennan Taylor is our retail coordinator,
Oh
actually,
wow! Hey,
as well. Yeah, Galileo Games is a member as kind of a company together.
okay, cool. Is it uncouth to ask? You would mention benefits where you guys pull your resources, you get booths, you have a retail outlet for your members' product at a game. Is that? And I guess I just answered the question I was about to ask. So bad journalist, Mike. Bad journalist. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
so
we do all the convention support for our members. You don't have to even be present at a convention in order to have your game there and sold and promoted. There's always going to be a friendly face staffing our booth that will say, "Hey, check this out. You want to do this? Yeah, we have a game for that." Because literally, that's true. If there's something you want to do, practically everything we have a game for, and our members are creating new games all the time, like new, amazing, wonderful, exciting indie games. It always makes me so, like, excited to see what's in our storage unit, what gets on our tables in our booth. And we've also started we have a line now with ACD distribution. We were represented at the ACD Games Day, so we're really growing in terms of that, like in terms of that regard.
oh, sweet. Um, Looking over the nominees and the members you talked about, it seems like I'm guessing you guys probably favor independent rule sets. I don't see many publishers who are like doing Savage Worlds or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not a barrier if you wrote a setting for another game, it's not a barrier for you to nominate yourself, especially we have that best setting category,
Mhm.
but we do tend because of the way that our categories work, we do tend to have our nominees come from like independent rule sets rather than this is a module for Savage Worlds or this is a module for Starfighter.
Okay, that makes sense. Well,
Mhm.
this is really exciting stuff. Got a second URL to share. Once again, igdnonline.com is the main website. If you put a slash groundbreakers behind that, you'll go to the page we've been sharing. But this is the Discord URL where the actual ceremony is going to happen, and that's coming up super soon, right?
Yeah, that's coming up on Saturday, July 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're actually holding that on a special Discord server that we've been using. It's a really fun event. We have different parlors set up in the Discord so you can mingle within different rooms in smaller groups. Then we all watch the announcements video live together and we get to chat about it. You get to meet the nominees who show up, the judges, talk to other people, talk to other game designers, game lovers. It's one of my favorite events of the whole year.
All right, cool, cool. And that was Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday. All right, forgive me.
Yeah, time doesn't
Um,
exist for me right now.
Fair enough. I'm
So
debating. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, one.
So obviously, if someone wants to look at a whole new slew of games, right, the nominees is a great place to go to look for games you might not have heard of, games that,
Mhm.
that are being considered by a informed group to be particularly good. And I presume that would apply to past years as well. Is there a place someone can look at what the winners and nominees of past years for the award is?
Yes, I love that you asked that. If you scroll all the way down that page on our lovely Squarespace page, there is a link that says "See previous winners" here, and you click there, and you get to see everybody from since 2016. I think that we might actually be missing a year, and that's probably because we just didn't do the editing on that website. I'm not a website editor, um, and we have a lot of stuff on our website, but I believe that everybody should be on there from 2016 on.
Yeah,
Now, because it's been so long, some of those links might not be working anymore, but you can always look up the game
Sure.
on your own as well.
oh, Tristan Zimmerman, Shanty Hunters.
Yes.
I had him on the show last year to talk about that. Oh my god! Oh, and have you heard about this game,
Oh,
No, I don't know that one.
Jess? Do you want to describe it, or should I?
sure. Yeah, I can describe it. Shady Hunters is a gumshoe system game where you are on a ship. It's very historical. Tristan Zimmerman has a blog that goes into different historical events, people, places, and tells you like how could you add them to your game. And you can really see like his love of history shine in Shanty Hunters. So it's real shanties, and then you go out and you hunt for them, and as you literally sing them at the table, the events in the shanties start happening. You have to deal with that as your problem. Uh, Amazing game. Really like the history, the just the passion for that is in there. And there's also a new zine, a new edition called Ballad Hunters, which is based on the child ballads.
Oh,
I think all of them are the child ballads. I might be wrong on that, but it's like this really cool. You can get it at our Gen Con booth 132 if you come visit us next week. But it has like some tear and play pages in there. Very cool design. But we will also have Shanty Hunters.
yeah, it's a very specific niche. I mean, supernatural sea-based investigation, and years gone by, but it just seemed really, really cool. And it's his blog is if you just search for Molten Sulfur blog, you can find it. Tristan's an amazing dude. Great love of history, and he often writes articles about, hey, here's this quirky thing that happened in history, and here's how this would be an interesting RPG hook. And it's really fun content. And you
Yeah,
can
it's
also,
so cool.
yeah, you can also follow him on that website that we are calling Twitter, but that some other people who own it don't think should be called Twitter anymore. But well, that is really cool. Yeah, so you scroll down there, and I'm looking at the nominees for 2022 right now, and yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can find. And here's the winners for 2022. And all previous award winners. Okay, the link at the very bottom, like you
Very,
said.
very bottom.
Okay, cool. And I love this title. If I Were a Lich Man. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the ongoing problems that small publishers, regardless of what they're trying to publish, have is how do I get the word out about my game? How do I advertise? How do I put physical copies in people's hands? Regardless of what kind of games you're doing, right? Whether you consider yourself indie or not, and certainly for there to be an organization that helps with those things, I think is both very important and very itself under advertised, right? It's that, like you said, Mike, you didn't know these people existed until fairly recently, and that was through Nerdburger. So I am really happy that there are specific events that we can point to. Hey, here are the ads. Here's the awards. Here's the list of past years, because it can be very difficult to get people to be excited about and even aware of games outside of the deepest, fastest current of the mainstream. And I've had a lot of fun with indie games. I like mainstream games as well. I create them, but I think it is super exciting when you can bring people together and say, hey, random example, we're gonna play a game about church mice trying to defend the church against the invasion of Satanist roaches, right? That is a very specific idea, but there are games like that and whatever other concept you can think of that can really give you a change of pace and can be a better match for people who don't like the mainstream games for whatever reason, be that rules or setting or they feel it is too based in the stories of colonialism or whatever. That there are other options, and that the hobby stretches so much further than the concepts of the biggest, best known companies.
I have a name for your proposed game there, Owen.
Yeah.
The Mesian Council.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, I feel bad.
No, see, that's so good. Now I want to make it. Wow.
See, puns are the pillar on which indie games are designed. So you're right. You're halfway there already.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that we are really under advertised, and I think that's true a lot in indie games in general. There's a lot of space taken up by the mainstream bigger companies, like sometimes literal physical space on bookshelves at the conventions. And it is really difficult for smaller creators to get their voices out there. I've seen like a lot of our members' games get nominated and even awarded for Ennies, for example, and that's always very excited. And I see a trend with like a little bit more recognition for indie games, because when I say indie, I'm not saying like low quality underproduced games. There are some absolutely gorgeous, very well produced games. I was just looking at one of the nominees this year was Saltfish and Almanacs, a beautifully produced game from the Story Brewers Collective. just amazing, like card production and art, and there's a lot of creators that put a lot of passion into it, and it's sad when they don't get the spotlight that they deserve. And that's one of the things that we hope to do with the Indie Groundbreaker Awards. It's also something we hope to do with the diversity sponsorship, to get people who have a lot more barriers than even me, get people who have barriers and give them a leg up and mentorship, and give them an avenue with which to promote their games, and give them financial support as well to do what they want to do with those with their games. And yeah, it's so funny too, though, Mike. You were talking like every person you've mentioned from this list of games, also IGDM members. It's not all IGDM members on this list of nominees, but every single one you talked about, they're all awesome members of our org.
I just randomly happened to interview those
Yeah.
folks, but yeah, especially in recent years, switching back to the Ennies. Sorry, awkward
No, you're
transition.
good.
Yeah, Grant Howitt, who, if there's, he's indie guy. I mean, he
Yeah.
wrote Honey Heist. He won at least 4 Ennies. For, I want to say, Heart, and here's a picture of him wearing all 4 of those Ennies on the set that we don't call Twitter anymore. But yeah, so it's, indie games, and in fairness, it might be because there's been a lot of streaming happening during COVID and after COVID, and maybe some of them get more visibility. But yeah, it's definitely, there's more awareness than there used to be, but there should be a lot more, because God damn it, they're good enough. They're fun, and they should be more widely known.
Well, the industry itself is relatively new. Like what, 1970s is not that long ago. It's really not. And just the fact that we have social media, we have places that we can share these more often, it is of course going to get more eyes and ears, and people playing the games, people playing them at their tables, having them on their bookshelves. And I think a lot of people who are just getting into the hobby are drawn to other types of games when they know that there is something else. Now, I love playing Dungeons and Dragons. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people do. But I also love to be able to pull off. I like to sit down and play for a couple of hours, like Women Are Werewolves, with friends, and investigate themes that you wouldn't get necessarily in a mainstream game, because it's not as quote unquote marketable, because it deals with, for example, when Women Are Werewolves deals with what it means to be non-binary or queer in a society that's very binary. That's maybe not something that a mainstream company would want to bet on with their games, but an indie company, they're able to get that kind of niche market and get that out to people. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I guess it's in a strange way, it's analogous to sort of interesting art house cinema.
Yeah,
you get some amazing stuff happening, but then the multiplex down by the mall is going to be all Star Wars and Fast and Furious and Marvel. So
but every once in a while, one of those becomes a huge hit, and everyone talks about it, and people recognize it for the amazing, wonderful thing that it is.
Yeah, you get a Guy Ritchie who breaks out, that kind of thing. So. I've mentioned this to Craig, and it's one of those offers that's really hard to kick me up on, because it would require a huge amount of work. But if you guys wanted to ever have a platform for doing actual plays or demo sessions online, I would be thrilled to help out in that, or host them on a podcast or anything along those lines.
That would be so wonderful. I will definitely bring that up with our members. That would be amazing. The more people that we can get being partners with us, the better.
Well, and actual plays that hop from indie to indie, especially when you're talking about Women Are Werewolves being able to be played in 2 hours, right? Being able to show people how some of these things work can often be the very best way to get people excited. Jess, if I can ask, you've mentioned the diversity initiative a couple times. If someone was interested in either applying for that so that they can benefit from it, or helping with it, how would they contact you for either of those roles?
The best person to contact would be our diversity coordinator, whose name is Joyce King. They are available at diversity@igdnonline.com. You can also email me. My email is president@igdnonline.com.
Awesome. Well, it has been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
Did you have any final thoughts before we wrap things up tonight?
No, I just want to say I am so stoked to see all of our nominees. We had way more nominees than or not nominees, applicants than I expected. Coming in, it made for a little bit more work than maybe our judges were planning on initially. But I think, as someone who didn't have to do all the labor of reading all through all these games, I think that's awesome. Send in more games, and it's really astonishing to see the way people design games in ways that I had never even thought to imagine before. And seeing people from so many different places in their careers as a game designer or literal places in the world submit these games and get passionate about that. So, thank you to all of the applicants. Congratulations to all the nominees. And I hope to see you on Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern on our Discord for the Indie Groundbreaker Awards to figure out who the winners are.
And that Discord link will be in the show notes. And I would say it out loud, but it is a little complicated with a long string of letters.
Discord.gg, capital Z, BC, capital W, D8, capital WY.
Thank you, Owen Stevens. I appreciate that, sir. Owen, did you have any closing thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap things up?
I know that a lot of people are dismissive of the very concept of indie games, and I wish they wouldn't be. Indie games aren't trying to take anything away from you. They're not trying to destroy any of the games you want. They are different opportunities and different places to start, and I believe that they are a truly important and beautiful and growing part of the game industry. I think games are important. I think indie games are important, and I'm really delighted to see an organization support them, boost them, help grow them, and give awards for them.
All right. On that happy note, thanks, Jess. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, everybody who stopped by to check us out tonight, and we'll see you next time on the BAMF Podcast.